Hello guys. So if you're new here, my name is Melanie, and a couple years back, also I don't have a microphone. Actually I do. I don't know where it's at though, but I want this to be like podcast vibes because I've always wanted to make a podcast because I just love to talk. So this is gonna be our mic for today. If you're new here, many years ago I used to post on this YouTube channel, and it was just like little travel videos, little vlogs, whatever I wanted, outfit videos. I even for the longest time had a thrift haul like recorded, edited on iMovie and ready to post, but at the time I didn't have storage on my phone, so I never posted it. But recently I've just, as you can tell if you go look at my older videos, a lot of time has passed. Then I was probably 18, 19 at the time. I am now 25 years old. I have graduated college. I have dated different people since then. I lived in an entire city for the majority of my college career after I transferred, and I have since then moved back home, got into a nursing program for animals, had 2 internships, been to Dallas, like crazy. I have lived quite a bit of life in the last couple years that I have not posted anything. But recently I have found myself dealing with some anxiety, and it was triggered by a family medical incident, and it just stemmed from like medical anxiety to then I started suffering from general anxiety. So I was out in a large crowded area, super anxious, and I've slowly come out of the generalized like public anxiety, but I still suffer from health anxiety, which I've been like researching a lot about it. A lot of people say it stems from OCD, like it's health OCD and not anxiety, which I relate more to, honestly, if I'm being totally honest. But yeah, that's been my struggles recently. But at the time of the health incident, a lot of stuff was changing in my life. I had plans to go to another state to go do an internship. My dream is to work with horses, and I was set to go to Montana for 2 months, go work with horses in a specialized hospital, experience the snow, sleep in a cabin. That was going to be my life, and I was so excited for it because if you watch back my old videos, I've always been somebody who like loves adventure. I love traveling, I love hiking, like nature, I love all that stuff. So it kind of was a bummer that I decided not to go do that experience because I was gonna like free room and board. I wasn't gonna get paid, but I was gonna learn so much, and I was gonna be able to get to put that on my resume. I was able to go to another state and experience horse medicine in a specialized hospital, like surgical hospital. That would have been amazing. Like, who gets to tell you they've had that experience at 25 years old? A little valley girl from Texas going all the way to Montana. Like, so yeah, I was pretty bummed that that didn't happen. And then it just seemed like so much was changing. I graduated. If you know me, I graduated high school, immediately went to college, my community college down the road. Well, first I was at the other campus, and then I transferred to the one closer to home, and that was my life. Like, school was my life. I have been going to school since I was in pre-K, honestly. Pre-K all the way to high school, graduated, took that summer off, started in August of 2018 going to community college. Was in community college for about 3 years because I took a semester off after COVID. COVID happened over spring break. We transferred to online schooling. I took OChem or inorganic chem, one of them, online. Worst experience of my life. Took it online, And then I think I decided that next semester, that happened in the spring, so spring break, and then in that fall I was like, I'm not gonna work this semester. I really can't retain any information online. And if I can't go in person, I can't do school. So I decided to take a semester off, and all I did was work at my little retail job, which I loved. Made money, bought all the cute things that I wanted, and then when it was ready to come back to school, I think I did one more semester here locally. After that semester, I said, okay, you know what? I've always known that I wanted to work with animals, and that opportunity was not here at the time where I'm at. So I knew I had to move to a different location to get my degree. I ended up transferring to the university that I graduated from and was there for 3.5 years, maybe 4 years. Got into my nursing program, graduated. So yeah, it was like this entirety of my life. The only thing I've known for my entire life was school, was raising your hand, was answering questions, was constantly being on a learning loop. That's all I knew. So the fact that it was going to be taken away from me in the next month was honestly so frightening. I think I just went into like flight mode. Like I couldn't do it. I was really scared. The anxiety just got worse all the time. And I think the cats are fighting. I really don't do good with change, and this was just like the tip of the iceberg. You know, something had happened to somebody I really love in my family. I was gonna graduate, you know, things were changing around me. I was gonna have to move back home. Even though I'm 25, considered adult, you know, my parents have always had my back. I was going at school, so I still felt very much like a kid. Like, not a kid, but I felt like a young adult still. I was still in school, you know, still having to follow rules, things like that. And now I was gonna be a full-blown adult, expected to have my shit together, expected to get a job that's eventually gonna pay for my student loans and my future apartment or house, whatever I decided in my future kids' lives. So you can imagine the stress that I was feeling. But I graduated in May. It is now July, and honestly, in these last couple months, I really thought about, what do I want to do with my career and my degree now that I'm going to love to do for the rest of my life? Because yes, I love animals. Small animal medicine is very sad, and maybe because I worked in a small animal clinic, low cost, that didn't have like the best, you know, cleanliness, techniques, none of that, it really tarnished and like left a bad taste in my mouth about small animal medicine, and I'm honestly probably traumatized to go back, if I'm gonna be honest. My first internship, I spent it in a horse hospital. Experience with the animals was great. It was honestly amazing, and I've known towards the end of my program that's what I wanted to do. And small animal medicine was just, you know, people are very different everywhere you go. But lately it's been like, okay, I want to find a job, but I don't want to be stuck in another location that I do not like, that does not treat animals the way they should be treated, does not follow, you know, fear-free certification, like rules and stuff like that, does not, you know, I like to think my school is a very prestigious school. I will always talk so highly of the program I was in because we're AVMA accredited, you know, we got certified, we had to learn all the things, and they prepare us to eventually become licensed by the state you want to practice in and nationally. So when we say we know our stuff, we were taught very well by amazing professors, we know our stuff. And I feel like it's just so, like, what is the word? It just makes me not want to go out there and look for a job, because I feel like the school set us up for wonderful like things and expected us to have like these great expectations, but then you come to a place like where I live and the neighboring cities, and it's like, you know, the only emergency hospital we have here has such a bad reputation for how they care for their animals, and it's like, why would I want to look for work anywhere here, or around me, or even like just this job in particular, because I know it's horrible here. Like, and it's not just location based and how the team I would work with would be, or how they would treat animals, or their protocols and stuff like that. It's more so, it all comes back to pay. And it's such a sad thing to say, because even my professors would tell us, like, and like family and stuff who knew what I was going into, oh Mel, like, you're definitely not in this for the pay. And it's like, yeah, obviously not. Sorry guys, I have my Sims open, I'm closing it. You're obviously not doing this for the pay. And I always was under the impression, like, yeah, I'm not. Since I was a kid, I've loved animals, and I knew that I wasn't going to be getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I still knew that it was something I loved and it was worth it, because I wanted to do something. Like, I started off volunteering at a shelter, and I loved it. Like, I've always said I wanted to have a sanctuary for animals when I was older and I had money. But now that I've gotten older, and now that the world and this country is in the political climate, you know, that it is in, the political state, it's like, it's such a losing game for the middle and like low class, because even middle class now is probably considered low class, and wealthy is considered middle class, and then it's just the super rich that's like 3% or whatever. And I feel like this also contributes to some of my stress, because it's like, why do I want to get a job? I'm not even going to be getting paid good. I'm not going to be able to meet ends meet, honestly, if I didn't have like my parents available to me, and if they weren't helping me out with my room back at home, like groceries sometimes, I would not be able to do it on my own. Honestly, truthfully speaking, I'd have to get another job, but that's not possible when you work a full-time vet tech job, that you're working these long hours, and then sometimes you go overtime, an emergency comes in, things like that. When I was at the horse hospital, y'all, I would go in at 7 a.m. and would not get out till about 9 to 10. On a good day, 8:30. But most often it was more than 12 hours. I only ate one meal during that shift if I had time. If I had snacks, they were on the go. That was pretty much it. So it's almost like it's not plausible or unachievable, so it does not interest me. Like, it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to be, and it makes me so sad, because since I was a kid, I've always said, like, I want to help all the animals. Like, I want to get all the animals off the streets. Like, I've always said I wanted to do, like, things in other countries where you help out third world countries that don't have, like, stuff accessible to them for animals and humans. And it's like, now it just makes me sad, because I feel like I've lost that spark, because as I've gotten older and I've seen the entirety of the scope and the whole picture, it's like almost like nobody wants us to win. Because, and I don't want to downplay anybody else's role or degrade anybody else's job, but we went to school. I have a bachelor's degree. I was admitted into a program where I was expected to wear scrubs every day. I was expected to be on time. I couldn't miss. If I was late, I had points deducted from my final grade. I had to follow a curriculum given to us by the American Veterinary Medical Association. We had to follow it. We had to pass and get certain things approved, like, you know, poking the jugular vein on a cat and a dog, and then later a horse and a cow and a goat. Like, all kinds of things like this. And it's not just that. We also have to become very well versed on various animals, not just dogs or cats, not just horses or cows. It's goats. We even took a zoology class where we worked with birds. I worked with chickens. We worked with, lizards, tortoises, snakes. So why is it that when it comes to veterinary medicine, doctors, vet techs are not viewed in the same value as human doctors and nurses? We go through the same schooling, sometimes even more so, like even more schooling. I know some nursing programs that are like maybe not as long, or honestly I can't say that, I really don't know. Maybe they're the same length, but I can't understand why our value is not matched with theirs. We do the same things. When I graduate, I'm now eligible to take the VTNE, which is the National Veterinary Technician's exam, and then I can take the state exam for whatever state I plan to practice in. If I'm gonna stay in Texas, take this Texas state licensure exam. And it's like, you see these nurses on these TikToks making their nurse, TikTok videos, and like, or a traveling nurse. Have you seen their salaries? That is nowhere close to what I will ever see in my career as a veterinary technician. Even as a licensed one, I think the most they've told us they would pay us is probably like 18, and that's like in Texas, 20 if you're lucky, and that's after like 10 plus years of service. And that's the thing, our job is so rigorous and harsh. Like, look at the shit we do. When I was working with horses, I was picking up horse legs all the time. I was having a fight with horses who didn't want to take their meds. Like, I was walking 10,000 steps every day to go from one barn to the next barn to the next barn, administering fluids. Like, we do the same exact things. We do physical exams, we take heart rates, we take temperatures, like all that kind of stuff. And I just can't understand why it's devalued, like why it's not viewed the same as a human nurse, especially now, because society has come to a point where people in my generation know we cannot afford children. We cannot afford children. The closest we will get is a dog or a cat, and many people view their pets as their children. They are willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars at a vet hospital for their pets. I've seen it. I've seen people pay thousands and thousands of dollars for their horses, and granted, most of them are probably like they're racing horses or like barrel racing, stuff like that, so of course they're going to put in money because they're getting money out of it. But you go to a big city, people literally have their dogs in their bags with them everywhere they go, and they're the ones paying hundreds of dollars for blood transfusions, x-rays, blood work, vaccines, everything. If they're responsible owners, they're going to put the money into it. So why don't we see the same in return? And it's always also too, like, at the clinic that I was interning at, one thing that people love to say was like, why is everything so expensive? All you guys do is take our money. And I would look around and I was like, if only you knew these people were getting paid $8 an hour. I was not getting paid because I was just interning. They were getting paid $8 an hour. And that's because this was a low cost clinic. It was not cleanly at all. There was no updated equipment. Like, many things were shared. There was not certain protocols. Like, you see how I think a lot of people don't understand the aspect of it, because I think at one point or another I was the same way. I had to take my dog in for a double mastectomy once because I didn't get her spayed in time, so she started developing mammary tumors, and I had to pay almost $10,000 for a double mastectomy, and they still wanted to do a dental on her after she healed from that, which was going to be another $1,000 to $2,000 with the anesthesia and all that stuff. And I kind of just was like, and this was at the time I was in college, and I just kind of was like, what do y'all think? Am I made of money? Like, I'm a college student. I barely can afford my groceries every 2 weeks, and you think I can afford this? Of course I did it because I had the means. I have a credit card that I have access to, and I eventually paid it off on my credit card by myself. But I can imagine somebody in my shoes that didn't have access to that, or didn't have family that was willing to pay or anything like that. What are you supposed to do in that scenario? And it's so sad because a lot of people don't have the means to get the care that they want for their pets. And there are things coming out now like pet insurance and things like that, but that is a privilege for a lot of people. But even, you see, it's like a double-edged sword, because look at how not proactive, but like how progressive veterinary medicine is becoming. We now have pet insurance, and that should be one thing to tell you, like, we have pet insurance. Okay, you see that this is a real thing. People take a lot of like care for their animals. So why isn't pay or like wage being increased? You know, and we talked about it in class a lot, that in our careers we are going to come into contact with a lot of people that are going to complain about, excuse me, the cost of things. They're going to be very upset with us because things are expensive, and why are you charging me for this, and what about this? And we have to explain to them that, you know, or if we don't want to bring in the doctor, explain to them, well, ma'am, you know, this is a business. I have to pay for the business. I have to pay all of my workers, because in vet med, in a clinic, you are going to see more than 10 techs at a time running back and forth, doing something, admitting patients, discharging patients, working the front desk, answering phone calls. We do everything. So there's probably more than 10 techs working at these clinics, and the doctor has to be able to pay them. He also has to be able to pay the business if he's renting or if he's buying, you know, the land, whatever, and the electricity to keep all the machines and lights working. And then they also have to eventually pay off all the medical equipment that they buy for your pets, like care. So x-ray machines, CT machines are not cheap. Those have to get paid off. So, you know, your services are not only paying for the services that we're offering, but they're paying for that tech's check. They're paying for the doctor's check. They're paying for that CT machine's you know, cost, whatever. So there's so many things that go into it, and I don't know, like, part of me thinks maybe vet med should be more expensive, because like when you increase the cost of something, like if you wanted to increase the wage for techs, something else is gonna have to rise up, like the cost of the goods or cost of the whatever is gonna have to increase with it, because where's that money coming from, you know? So I don't know, it's just lately it feels like I'm 25 having a midlife crisis. I scratched my tattoo and that scared me. Oh no, I scratched it. It feels like I'm having a midlife crisis at the age of 25, because now I'm like, what did I get myself into? Like, our teachers did warn us about this, that we knew we were not going to be getting paid what we would like to, but it feels like where the world is right now, I will never be able to afford a house. I will never be able to afford a nice vacation for a honeymoon if I ever decide, you know, to settle down and get married. I will never be able to afford having kids and paying for their college, because if I stay in this career, I will be living check to check to check. Right now, it doesn't even seem plausible to get an apartment, because half of my check would probably go to my rent, and then I still have to pay my car insurance, then I still have to pay my groceries and my gas to get to and from my job. And it's just like, it is so exhausting. It's so exhausting. At this point, I've considered, honestly, going back to my retail job. Because I used to work in the dorms as an HR and an RA, and I was getting paid more than what some of those techs were getting paid at the internship that I was at, and that completely baffled me. As an RA and HR, I did nothing. Honestly, hold on. I did nothing that wasn't easy or like not fun. We had to host fun little activities for our residents. The most I had to do was go knock on somebody's door to keep it down. That is it. And I was getting paid more to do that than having to work 6+ hour shifts, running around, treating animals, doing things that other people literally cannot and are not qualified to do. That's another thing. States are getting way too lenient with who they're allowing to do the services and care for animals. If you are not, like, it's because it's so dangerous. It's literally, okay, think of it like this. You're a 19-year-old high school graduate going to college, and you want to work at a clinic. You want to be a veterinarian. So You get a job at your local clinic or shelter and they start you off as a kennel tech. You're making $8.50 an hour. Great. You've done that for 6 months. Awesome. Hey, we're going to go ahead and promote you because we need more hands, because veterinary clinics are always short-staffed and short-handed. That's the same thing. Short-staffed, overworked, and underpaid. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and promote you to be a vet tech, so you can go ahead and start helping us out. Oh, vet assistant, sorry. A vet assistant, so you can start helping us out with doing some things. Okay, but I really don't know. That's fine, we'll teach you along the way. We show you along the way, but every time we show somebody new, we slowly stop explaining all the rules and all the ways things should be done, because hey, we found a shortcut to do this, but there's a reason these rules are all in place. The shortcut is not, that's besides the point. So we're going to show you how to do things that probably aren't the most correct way, but you're still getting it done, so it's fine. Great. Works another 6 months to a year as a vet assistant. Awesome, you're doing awesome. Let's go ahead and move you up to a vet tech so you can start doing this. Starts doing, you know, intravenous injections or venipunctures, pulling out, blood. Starts doing IV fluids. Starts helping out in surgery. Starts doing this and this and this, doing x-rays, blah blah blah. And I'm not degrading anybody, because yes, a lot of you all have learned so much along the way, and you probably know more stuff than I do because you've been in the action and you've seen it. But you cannot argue that, because I've seen it with my own eyes at the clinics that I was at. Many of these people who just were thrown in and forced to learn things along the way, learned things a very incorrect way, or were not aware of things. I saw somebody straight up sniffing isoflurane, the tube, to make sure the tube was on, and I said, you are not supposed to be doing that. Like, that's very dangerous for you. You know, if something's not working, you know, whatever, that's why you do leak tests. She didn't know what a leak test was. They don't do leak tests. Half of their anesthetic tubes were torn and ripped with holes, and they were still using them. I had way too much waste anesthetic gas that I was exposed to in that time, let me tell you. Okay, so that's your vet tech scenario. Let me get you another scenario. I'm a 20-year-old high school graduate going to school, but I think I want to work with people. I think I want to be a doctor one day. Let me go ask this hospital or this doctor's office if I can start working. Okay, tell me, there is no way they would put you in there to go handle human beings without any form of certification, licensure, or schooling that pertained to that field. Maybe you could work as a front desk, answering calls, helping out, scheduling appointments, but there is no way they would put in the care of you, somebody's grandma, sister, brother, cousin. No way. Now, tell me why that's not seen the same in animals. Why they make it so accessible for anybody off the street to come get a job. And I mean anybody. This could be, you know, I don't know if this has ever happened, but it could be a complete negative, like, bad person who abuses animals and, you know, wants this job so he can abuse them every single day. You know, people don't know. It's very different in animal medicine, and I get it. A person's life is valued much more than a dog's life in the scenario of, like, what is that, we learned about it in one of my classes. It's not psychology or sociology. Oh my god. Oh, ethics, in my ethics class. Like, if there's a bus that's gonna hit one person versus 5 people or something like that, who are you saving? And you had to decide, but it was like, well, I have to save the one with more people, but then they're like, well, why are you putting more value on this group of people than this person? These all could be a group of, like, serial killers, and this is a wonderful, you know, dad who has 2 kids at home. You know, it's like the same thing. Like, goes back to the thing, people view their pets as their kids. You know, they're still living beings. Why aren't they treated with the same respect and empathy as people in regards to their medical needs and care? I don't know. You guys tell me. I threw a lot in this conversation, a lot about qualifications needed for veterinary technicians. And again, I'm just some small town girl. I probably don't know anything compared to some people. Part of me wants to say I have no right to speak out on this, but I feel like I do, especially because I took an oath in regards to this field to protect the lives of animals. And I think being able to voice my concerns regarding like things like licensure or qualifications for techs definitely impacts the lives of animals and their safety. And not only that, as somebody who has seen the struggles in clinics and somebody who has worked there day to day, even if it was just for an internship, I saw how hard these people worked. I saw how hard it was for them to live and struggle at the same time just to, afford ends meet because of how little they were getting paid. But it's always like the most amazing people too that, oh, this dog was dumped on my lawn, so I had to take it in, but now I can't afford food for 3 dogs. I can't afford vet bills for 3 dogs. And it's so sad because they want to do good. They're in this field for a reason. And I feel like that's most of us in the field. Like, we wish we could take in every animal. We wish there were no animals in shelters or getting run over. But even if we could, we know we wouldn't be able to afford it, because that's another $500, annual cost for this pet. And I don't know, it's very sad. And I definitely think that there should be a pay increase in veterinary technicians all around, licensed or not. And maybe being a hypocrite saying that, or like contradicting myself, but yes, I believe that people should be qualified to do the job that they do. But also, if you're expecting such high needs from us, like for us to be licensed to get more pay, make the pay worth it, because at this point, $15 an hour is not going to cut it for me to afford a house or even an apartment, knowing that I have to pay for my vehicle and its insurance, and also be able to afford my own health care, because what if I get sick somehow attending to all these animals, or things happen? How am I supposed to live? So just a rant, honestly. And yeah, I've always wanted to do a podcast. I loved YouTube. That's why I would post, and I honestly had so much fun. And I guess I've come to a point in my life where I need to find something that makes me feel fun again, because it's true, you get older and you feel like you're not fun anymore, you feel like you're boring, you feel like you're sad. And I didn't even realize it was happening till it happened, and then it was like, wow, I really lost myself in all of this. I've been doing lots of arts and crafts, and that's helped me, but at the end of the day, I feel like you need something to make you feel like you again, and that goes for everybody. If mine's arts and crafts, it's arts and crafts, but it also is talking, because I love talking. I used to get in trouble for it in elementary school, but I love talking. I love talking to people. Anxiety has made that quite hard, but I'm talking to y'all, and this was something that I felt really passionate about, because I feel like a lot of my classmates can relate. We were very excited and optimistic about this field despite its low income, but being around those people that I had shared classes with every day for 2.5 years, I learned how much we loved animals and how much we were willing to sacrifice to be with animals every day. And even the bad, like the bad and the ugly, the sad, the euthanasias, the tough cases, somebody has to do the job, and that was willing to be us. But now it feels like it's a losing game, and I feel like I've lost sight of it, because I can't see a future where I will be able to live comfortably anymore, even though I put so much money into my career, or my schooling for my career. I have student debt, I have loans I need to pay off, I have my car insurance that I pay every month, and I don't know what's gonna happen in the next couple months. I know that I need to get a job soon, because my student loans will go into action, I guess, in a couple months, where they're going to start accumulating interest. It's just hard for me to find the spark in my job anymore, which is crazy because I haven't even had a job yet. I graduated, but being able to have that internship experience, I experienced quite a bit when I was there in those short times, and like I said, it really left a sour taste in my mouth, and I'd like for that to change. So I did get my minor in political science because I used to want to be the president of the United States of America. That does not feel possible anymore, but maybe I got it for a reason. You know, I've always thought if I wasn't gonna work in a clinic, I literally have said this before, if I wasn't gonna work in a clinic, I didn't want to do like a desk job. I want to fight for legislation regarding animal rights and like public lands and like national parks and things like that. My dream has always been to not be a national park guide, like to work in a national park and on the side, or like if some national parks have veterinary staff, because most of them don't because it's wildlife. That would be my dream job, but of course we don't even have funding, or we don't have many of those programs anymore because they've been dismantled by the current office. But yeah, this was my rant. This was really fun. I'm glad I got all my thoughts out of my head. Maybe I can go to sleep peacefully now and not dream about my low income.